Halo, selamat malam, eee, kawan-kawan semua. Kali ini kita, Perspicere kembali mengudara untuk mendiskusikan terkait bagaimana para filsuf di Indonesia atau secara general Asia Tenggara dapat, berkontribusi bagi filsafat secara global. Hari ini saya tidak sendiri seperti biasanya, kita mengundang salah seorang tamu, Profesor, eee, Joaquin dari Filipina, khususnya dari The La Salle University. Tanpa berlama-lama lagi, mari kita sambut Profesor Joaquin atau kita panggil sebagai JJ. Halo,
Hello.
JJ.
Hello, Samuel. Nice to be here.
Yeah, really great to have you here. What time is it in Philippines?
It's around 8:12 here in Manila. How
Ah,
about
yeah,
you, Indonesia? How are things there?
yeah. Good, good. It's 7 p.m. here. Usually we have people who came here with a lot of hours differences, like 12 hours, but it's really great to only to have you here. We only have 1 hour differences.
1 hour
So yeah,
difference. That's it.
yeah, Prof. JJ, thank you so much for your time to come to here, your willingness to come to this small collective of people. Other than
Mhm.
me, there's also one of my friends, Anga, but he currently doing something out there, so he couldn't join. But yeah, we're really glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Before we start, can I introduce a bit this? What kind of thing is this Perspicere?
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, Perspicere is a collective, I would like to say, and we're hoping to form a research group as well soon. And what are we doing with this collective? We're trying to disseminate philosophy, especially discourses on contemporary philosophy of
Mhm.
religion. Considering the stagnations of this discourse in Indonesia, yeah, we always have the same discussions about over the time. And we hope that through this collective, more people will be exposed to the latest discourse on philosophy of religion, and by their own will, they will participate as well in the discourse. And yeah, and that's one of the reasons we invite you here, JJ, because we want to share. We want you to share a bit about your experience, what you did, and what are you currently doing right now.
Mhm.
Uh, how could we, Southeast Asian philosophers or even Indonesians, to participate in the current discourse in the philosophy of religion globally?
Glad to help out.
Yeah, but before we talk about the big stuffs, can I ask you some small talks first? So, JJ, let's start with questions for question number one. So, what is philosophy for you? And to be more specific, what is the philosophy of religion for you?
Okay, so first of all, what's philosophy? So philosophy for me is concerned about foundational issues that we ordinarily take for granted. These are issues about what's there, how do we know it, and why do we value those things. So those are the metaphysical, epistemic, and axiological questions or ethical questions that we ask all the time. Now, when we ask about the meaning of life, the existence of God, what's justice, what's the right thing to do, you are asking philosophical questions. Now, what's philosophy of religion in particular? Philosophy of religion is concerned about religious doctrines, religious ways of thinking, and how we think about a supreme being, if there is any, how we think about evil, and how we think about suffering, and how that coheres or is consistent with the idea of a divine being. So, those are some of the issues in philosophy of religion. And of course, you still have your metaphysics, your epistemology, your value theory in those questions as well.
All right, nice. Uh, do you have any examples of what kind of questions that you ask in philosophy of religion?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on a lot of things in philosophy of religion. Specifically, one particular issue that I'm fond of thinking about is theological fatalism. So here's the thought. If God is omnipotent, all knowing, omniscient, and all loving, then he knows what will happen to you in the future or what's the state that you'll be in the afterlife. Now, if that's the case, and he has the power, okay, and the love to control those things, then if that's the case, then if you end up in heaven, then it seems like you're bound to be in heaven. It's fated that you'll be in heaven. On the other hand, if you're in hell in the afterlife, then it seems like you're fated to be in hell. If that's the case, then it seems like there's nothing that you could do about it. There's nothing that you could do now, right, in our daily life that will make God change his mind of letting you in heaven or putting you back in hell, wherever. So that's one fascinating thing that I'm thinking about. So it's known as theological fatalism. I'm also concerned about specific doctrines in Christianity. So I'm born and raised Catholic. So one thing that I'm fascinated about is the idea of Christ. So Christ, Jesus Christ, if we're all familiar, is one of the um, main features of Christianity. That's why you are a Christian, because you believe that Jesus Christ is your personal savior or something to that effect. But in one of the doctrines in Christianity, tells us that Christ has a dual nature. Christ is both human on the one hand and divine on the other hand. So if Christ, Jesus Christ, is human, then he might die. Right? He has those human characteristics. And if he's divine, he has those divine characteristics or divine properties. But these properties sometimes, well, they contradict each other. So, being human, Christ will die, or Christ died, of course. Being divine, he can't die, he can't perish, or whatever. So, those things, those two things, that Christ is human, Christ is divine, makes some contradiction in our thinking. So, as a philosopher, you're concerned about those things as well.
Well, yeah, I think what makes philosophy. Oh, thank you for the elaboration. I think what makes philosophy of religions, in my opinion, really interesting because it's really relatable for us, especially those who once raised and born and raised in a religious communities, right? So, questions about doctrines and those kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think that's one of the things that make philosophy of religion really interesting. And about that, I wonder. Uh, I don't know about you, but we Southeast Asian peoples rarely thinks about to choose philosophy as a way to build your career. I may say, but what makes you decide to pursue philosophy formally, academically, and later even you're doing and you're a researcher right now, even you're a professor at the LaSalle University. I wonder, can you share a bit about your that thing?
Yeah, actually, I know that you're asking that question. You'll be asking that question. So I was thinking, why did I end up in philosophy myself? Um, well, I was a curious little child when I was younger. I was concerned about many things. I'm reading a lot of history, a lot of logic stuff. I didn't know that they are logic stuff or history stuff. So I was young. I was reading a lot, and I came reading some great books of the Western world. So I read some Plato. I didn't know that he's a philosopher then. I read some Aristotle. I read some Aquinas. Then when I get into university, so I was fascinated. Oh, these are philosophers, and they're concerned about some foundational issues that I was concerned about. So yeah, so that hooked me in philosophy. So I pursued philosophy in my undergraduate, till my graduate school, till my postdoc, and some visiting professorships as well. So yeah, and I'm happy where I am. Yes, you're right. So I'm a professional academic philosopher. Right now, I'm in De La Salle University, one of the premier universities in the Philippines. Plug De La Salle University. Yeah, so why did I end up here? Because yeah, it's one of the best philosophy departments that we have in the Philippines. And what's fascinating about De La Salle is that Well, you have some analytic philosophers, some non-analytic philosophers, continental philosophers, some other sorts of iconoclastic philosophy. So yeah, that's a fun group to be in. And why did I do some research in philosophy? Well, doing research, writing, publishing in philosophical journals or publishing books is your way of contributing to the discipline. It's like I want to have a dialogue with Plato, Descartes, Kant, Hegel, and so on. I want to look at the arguments presented by Bertrand Russell, Wittgenstein, or Yuji Nagasawa. Again, another plug, my great friend out there. Yeah, so yeah, it's a way of getting into the discussion, contributing some new ideas, perhaps, in philosophy. So that's why I ended up as a professional academic philosopher.
Wow, nice. Thank you. Uh, about that, about contributing in the discipline. I found this one article from you quite interesting. The title of your article is Are Filipinos Philosophers Publishing in Top Philosophy Journals?" Yeah, can you share about your findings in that article? If I'm not wrong, you said the answer is qualified no. So yeah, tell us more about it.
Okay, so this is a bit controversial. Okay, so what do I mean by the question, are Filipino philosophers publishing in top philosophy journals? Well, first, I need to qualify what I mean by Filipino philosophers. So, what I mean by Filipino philosophers are academic, professional philosophers in the Philippines, Filipino born, that is, their nationality is Filipino, and they're here in the Philippines, based in the Philippines, currently rostered in an academic institution which offers a philosophy degree or philosophy program. So that's my idea of Filipino philosophers. Right? So I'm not thinking about Filipino philosophers like the big shots in Filipino philosophy. That's not my idea. The idea is just here are the current generation of Filipino philosophers. Uh-huh. So the next part is top academic or top philosophy journals, publishing in top philosophy journals. What do I mean by that? Well, it's simple. So the idea is that I looked at the top philosophy journals that we currently have in the world. So your top 10 will be, of course, there's Mind, you have Analysis, perhaps Australasian Journal of Philosophy, and all those other top 100 philosophy journals that we have. So the question now becomes, so are the current generation of Filipino philosophers working in the Philippines publishing in those top journals? Now, my answer is a qualified no, as you have said. What do I mean by that? Okay, so the answer is negative to some extent because the last time that someone did publish in the top journal of philosophy, like mine, Journal of Philosophy, those two big journals, was in the 1960s. So that was the last time that a Filipino philosopher has published in a top journal. So what's going on now in this current generation? By the way, the time frame of publications that I was looking at in that paper was in the is 2010 to 2020. So that's the time range that I'm working at. So I'm looking at those things, and I'm looking at the current roster of Filipino philosophers in different academic departments here in the Philippines, and I noticed that while there have been some philosophers publishing in some journals, they're not publishing in the top journals, in the top 10, top 50, top 100 philosophy journals. And that's the negative result. The positive result that I saw was a trend in the last decade, that is in the later part of the 2010s, at 2018, 2019, and up until last year, some Filipino philosophers have been publishing in those top journals. So some philosophers have published in Synthesis, so that's a top journal. Others have published in the logic journals, Logic and Logical Philosophy. Some general philosophy like Philosophia, Acta Analytica. So some philosophers have been publishing in those journals. So I'm a bit optimistic now because the current trend is that, well, until last night when I was looking at the latest publications in the top journals, I see some Filipino philosophers there, and I think that we're making it as a country, and we're making it as a Southeast Asian region as well, because you have top philosophers from Thailand, some philosophers in Singapore, of course, are there in the top journals. So yeah, so that's my the gist of the paper. What's also
Yeah.
interesting is that um, the gender difference is not that uh, the gender difference between male philosophers publishing in top journals and female philosophers is not that big, albeit there's still about 3% of the population that's not really publishing in the top journals. Yeah.
Wow, nice to hear that. Yeah, good. So, but I wonder, do you have any ideas like why that is happening? And actually, the same thing is also happening in here in Indonesia. So yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know why, but that's also happening here. I'm trying my best to publish. I mean, I'm still in my graduate's master study, so I don't think I have that burden that much. But I'm trying to write a review books and once publish in Zygon, only once. But yeah, I don't have that much burden. But still, PhDs here happening here in Indonesia. And can you share your hypothesis? Like,
Mhm.
why is it happening?
Oh yeah, so there are a lot of things or a lot of factors that get into publishing, especially in the top journals. I learned this from the previous editor of the Australasian Journal of Philosophy. I learned it from Eugene Nagasawa, who's also the editor of Religious Studies, one of the top journals in philosophy of religion. What I learned from them is that first, of course, there's the linguistic barrier, the language barrier, because most people in Southeast Asia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, are not native English speakers. And most of the top journals are in English, they're publishing in English. So that's one of the barriers that I see as well. So I, personal experience, I get a lot of rejections, not because of the ideas per se, but because of how clear the writing is. Right? So that's the first thing. You need to be clear and you have to write well in English. So that's the thing. Another thing that I saw, another hypothesis that I may have, is that well, we're still youngish as a region in terms of philosophy. Right? So philosophy, professional philosophy, has been here just I think in the past 50 years. Right? De La Salle University has just established their philosophy program, I think, in the 70s. Other universities in the Philippines, of course, had older philosophy programs, but those are, well, let's say, colonial philosophy programs from the American or the Spanish regime. Perhaps in Indonesia, you have also some uh, colonial influence in your philosophy programs. But it's not until I think the 70s, 80s that really a new breed of Filipino philosophers or philosophers in the region have started publishing a lot of works. So I know that in Thailand that happened. Here in the Philippines that also happened. I'm not sure in Indonesia if that happened, but as a region, Southeast Asia is a young philosophy region. We're not known for philosophy. We're known for tourism. We're known for our beaches. We're known for entertainment. You know, you have the stereotype of Filipinos uh, great in singing. You know, those things, right? So we're not yet uh, mature enough in philosophy, but we're getting there. Okay? So I think the challenge for us, for our generation, for the next generation of philosophers here in Southeast Asia, is to really get into the philosophy uh, bug, so to speak. Get into philosophical research if you really want philosophy. So that's another thing. Another thing, so you have the language, you have the maturity. We're not yet a mature philosophy region. Okay? Another thing I think is economics as well, because most great publishing philosophy countries that publish philosophy are in the first world, right? U.S. of course, they're publishing a lot of philosophy. The U.K., Australia, and so on and so forth. So those countries have, well, a lot of money. Right? They have good economic stature in terms of their GDPs, perhaps, or GNPs. Right? But it's not the case in Southeast Asia. Most of us are like poor academics like us. We're underpaid, overworked, and so on. So you have those things. And you have a lot of teaching on the side. So those are factors, of course. You have the economic factors. So you have, again, language. You have the culture of research, culture of philosophy. Still, we're still young, about 50 years old, and of course, economics. That factor is also a thing. I think those three factors are there, and they explain why we're not publishing as a region.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I think it's more like structural problems, right? It's structural problem instead of personal problems only, right?
Yeah,
Language,
yeah. In a way,
language
yeah.
in a way.
I have to agree. It's not just the individual, or you know, it's not personal. It's more structural. I think our culture, our society in general, is not yet conducive to philosophy. Not like in Europe or the U.S. or some other first world countries where they have established philosophy programs already. So that's the hypothesis that I
Yeah, yeah. Um, I wonder, do you think to have those kind of? I saw that you have the associations of philosophers in Philippines. I don't know, I forgot the name, but you have the association, right? You have the associations. Do you think it's helpful for the philosophers in Philippines?
Yeah, philosophical associations are helpful because they become a venue for young philosophers, old philosophers to get into research. Right? So, philosophical associations, not just regional or national organizations, you can start with small groups, like in universities, you have organizations like a club, philosophy club. Yeah, those are helpful because now you could interact with like-minded people, could share your ideas with them, and perhaps get feedback, your your ideas, and that's the start. Now, speaking of associations, another plug. The Philosophical Association of the Philippines is actually just 49 years old. We're just turning 50 next year. Uh, for your information, I'm the current setting president of the Philosophical Association of the Philippines. So yeah, it's something that I'm looking at as well. So the philosophical associations need uh, sorry, the philosophical associations provide a venue for young philosophers to get into philosophy, the vibe of thinking about philosophy. So yeah, I think you're right. The associations are crucial, but also the universities, right? So universities need to spend some money their philosophy programs um, to inspire people, to motivate people really to get into philosophical research or the culture of philosophical research.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, here we don't have those kind of associations at all. So maybe
I
there's
challenge you, Sambo, to establish that
yeah, yeah.
there.
Maybe there are some, but they're no longer active. Like they
Mhm.
just make one writings and then they're gone. One websites and then they're gone. So yeah, I don't know what happened here in Indonesia, but yeah, that's happening here in Indonesia as well. So good to hear about it, and maybe this is for the audience later.
Mhm.
So we may want to consider that kind of things. And now get back, go back to the your ideas about writing in journal. So I wonder how important it is, in your opinion, to publish articles in top journals. Is it a must for philosophers? And is it also a way for us Southeast Asian philosophers to make an impact to the philosophy academia globally?
Yeah, so what I'll say will be controversial. Sorry if my administrators are watching. Sorry if my bosses are watching in Dallas. Okay, so yes, it's important for philosophers to publish their works, their ideas, in top journals. That's very important. Why? So I'll use a Wittgenstein analogy. So Ludwig Wittgenstein is Austrian philosopher, English philosopher, uh, who thought about publishing in philosophy as a kind of boxing. Um, you can't be a great boxer if you don't fight in the ring. So we as philosophers, we need to, if you want to be good philosophers or great philosophers, you need to get into the ring. And what's our ring? What's our arena? It's journals, publishing. Right? Publishing your ideas, getting it out there, and hopefully some people will have right, will love it right, or hate it and reply to your ideas. Right? That's one way of for a philosopher to contribute to the discussion in any area of philosophy. For example, if you're into philosophy of religion, you need to publish works in philosophy of religion in the top journals. Because if you're just publishing in not so top journals, your ideas
Or
can't
even
be read.
predatory journals, right? Even in predatory journals, I
Yeah,
saw that a
yeah,
lot.
and
Predatory
predatory
journals.
journals. Yeah, I'm not even thinking about predatory journals. In if you're publishing online, just posting your stuff over Facebook, oh, that's all right. All right, that will give some people, a general audience, some idea of what you're working on, but you're not contributing to the field. And the best way to contribute to the field is to publish in academic journals. Right? That's where the discussions are going on. That's where you could contribute to make. You could make a contribution. That's where you could send your new ideas on particular subject matter.
Yeah. So, writing. Do you have any tips for philosophers who want to try publishing articles in top journals? Of course, Southeast Asian philosophers. Any tips?
Tips for Southeast Asian philosophers. Uh, First, you need to have a groove, the groove of writing. If you don't know how to write, you need to start writing whatever. Right? And of course, you need to know what you want to write on. And that's where research comes in. You need to read a lot of things going on in the field, read the latest journal issue on this particular topic, and interact with other people. Join conferences, join things like this, so that you have a new set of ideas coming in, and just write those ideas, and let's see from there. What's good about philosophy is that you can write about anything in philosophy. Right? If you're a philosopher, you could write about whether this cup is a cup or whatever. Right? So you can write about those things, so long as someone else is also writing on that particular thing. But what's helpful is that you need to share your ideas with other people, and hopefully they could give you feedback and advice on how to make it work or make your writing better. That helped me.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Okay, we're talking about journal now. I wonder, do you think there are any other ways we uh, could impact the academia in philosophy of religion globally? I mean, I saw one of your project that you initiated with the Thailand philosophers, yeah, if I'm not wrong. Sora Hongla Darom.
Pangladan. Yeah.
Hongla Darom. Yeah, can you tell us about it, about your project and my questions before? Yeah.
Okay, so my current project with Swaraj is Philosophies of Appropriated Religions in Southeast Asia. So this is our second project together. So Swaraj is the president of the Philosophy and Religious Studies Association in Thailand. So in 2018, we discussed how we could have a kind of partnership with our association here and their association there. And we talked about that in the World Congress of Philosophy in Beijing, 2018. So we were there, we started discussing our interactions. So our first meeting was the next year, 2019. We established um, a project known as Love and Friendship. So that's our first project, Love and Friendship Across Cultures. And we published that as a book. So the best papers in that workshop was published, were published as a book by Springer. And now we have another project, the Philosophies of Appropriated Traditions in Southeast Asia. And as I've said, this is our second project. And what we're thinking about is, well, Southeast Asia is home to many religions. Buddhism is here. Thailand is known for Buddhism. Indonesia, Philippines have a population of Christians or Catholics, and of course Muslims as well. So most of the world religions are here in Southeast Asia. Now we wonder, okay, so we have those religions, but how are we practicing those religions? Of course, Indonesian religion, I think, is different from, sorry, Indonesian Christianity is different from Christianity practiced in Rome, okay? Because Ro- perhaps the Roman Catholic Church has a strict doctrine, but in Indonesia, it's practiced differently. So we're curious about that because we notice that Buddhism is in Thailand is different from Buddhism in India or Buddhism as practiced in China. So those are what we call appropriated religions. So these religions are when they came into our region, in the Southeast Asian region, in the Philippines in particular, Indonesia or Thailand, those religions were appropriated by the people who embraced those religions. Now, those appropriated religions, of course, imply a different set of questions. Okay, questions about the divine. What's the nature of the divine? What's the nature of evil? Or how do we reconcile the thought that God has those omni properties, omnipotence, omnibenevolence, and so on and so forth, and there's suffering in the world. But we have a different flavor, right, in thinking about those things. At least that's the hypothesis. And we're now actually ending the project by December. And I think we started in 2021. We have a lot of material that's available in our website. So I could share with you the website in your YouTube channel later. Okay, so yeah, uh, it's exciting stuff. And we have a part two by 2023 till 2025. So we're preparing that new project. So I hope you join in, Samuel.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah, yeah. Audiences, yeah. I have a lot of friends who are also interested in philosophy of legend here in Indonesia, and I know. Just for your informations, most Protestant Christianities here in Indonesia are imported from United States. So it's kind of like fundamentalist, evangelical, yeah. But it's appropriated, especially with the Chinese Indonesians here. So yeah, it's just interesting stuff that I wanted to share with you. So it's appropriated by the Chinese Indonesians
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
United States. Yeah.
But I use the term appropriated here because it's a play actually. When we talk about appropriated thing or you have disappropriated this particular practice, it has a negative connotation in the U.S. when you appropriate, misappropriate things. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Sabo?
can hear you. It's a bit lagging, but I can hear you. Hello? I can hear you, but it's a bit lagging. Okay, I guess there's some kind of problem here, connection problem. But anyways, kawan-kawan, tadi kita udah berbicara banyak soal bagaimana kita bisa berkontribusi dalam filsafat agama ya, secara global. Jadi lewat menerbitkan tulisan di oke. Hai, JJ.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. So yeah, where are we? So yeah,
Yeah, so
appropriated. Yeah.
appropriation. So the term appropriated is actually a play because when U.S. academics use it, they use it negatively. It has a negative connotation. That's why I'm using it in a positive light. Then when you appropriate a religion or a practice and so on, you're assimilating it within your culture. And you have a different set of ideas when you appropriate those things. And what we're concerned with are the philosophical implications of those appropriations. Right? So yeah, that's a fun way of thinking about uh, philosophy of religion as well.
Nice project, nice project. So, okay, I think you missed that one question. I mean, like, how we could impact the academy other than writing. I think project might as well. Am I right?
Yeah. So yeah, how do you impact aside from academic writing or journal publication? Yeah, things like this could impact um, people to think about philosophy as a serious discipline. So thanks, Samuel, for having this kind of program. I also have my own program, Philosophy and What Matters. Another plug, sorry. So yeah, I'll send you the link. Yeah, so this is a new way of contributing in philosophy to the discipline of philosophy. You know, new media, YouTube streaming, podcasts are also a great way of informing the public of how philosophy works. Well, another sort of venue that philosophers can come into is the old media or the newspapers. You could write opinion pieces. I think most philosophers in the West are doing that, either publishing opinion pieces in the top newspapers. Right? That's our way of contributing to the public life. That's why there's such a thing as public philosophy, and public philosophers are there to share their thoughts on social issues, ethical issues we are concerned with.
Yeah. Talking about the media, the YouTube and stuff. So, just give you some picture about what happened here in Indonesia after the pandemic happened. Uh, we philosophers here in Indonesia start to organizing some kind of events, and we have this philosophy festival back then, and we invited people from western part of Indonesia until the eastern part of Indonesia, and I think I'm agree with you. So this kind of new media could make some kind of correspondence with other philosophers as well, and what we're doing right now. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, the pandemic opened a lot of things for us. Like this kind of technology, we were not aware of this pre-pandemic. Now we're utilizing it, and it's a good way to communicate with one another, not physically, not face to face, but online. Yeah,
Wow.
kudos, Samuel.
Yeah, thank you, JJ. Maybe there's one last question from me. Do you have are there any practical tips for those aspiring philosophers in Southeast Asians out there? Any practical tips?
Uh, read, read a lot of philosophy, watch a lot of philosophy, a lot of philosophy content in YouTube. Watch this channel, watch my channel, read a lot of works. I listen to podcasts in philosophy if you don't like reading. Okay, and think. Sit down and think about the things that you have read, the things that you have heard, the things that you have watched, and think how you could contribute. Okay, to the discussion. Okay, if you're interested in philosophy of religion, you want to know about the problem of evil, type search in Google. watch YouTube videos about it, think about the problem, set up your own argument perhaps, and write it down, and let's see from there. Perhaps you could get them published. So that's my tip. Just be engaged in philosophy. That's the only way that you could really do philosophy.
Yeah. Conference. I think it's important. Yeah, conference.
Yeah, having a conference, meaning just having a discussion, getting into the discussion, not just a physical conference, but really um, engaging in the discussion. I think that's the best step. And of course, you can email a lot of philosophers. Professional philosophers are friendly. You make start a correspondence with them, or have a kind of video chat like this. So yeah, you will learn a lot by doing that, and that's a good way of getting into the discipline.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, JJ. It's really insightful, and I'm really hope this also could give some insights for those who's listening as well. And we have this one questions here, JJ, from one of the audiences. So, hi, JJ. Can you tell us more about the story of your writing that was rejected? Yeah, the one that you mentioned before. How did you finally manage it?
Ah, thanks for the question, Ludi. Rejection is part of the whole process. Don't be afraid of rejection because when
Oh, it's kind
there
of
are
like
only 4 days to go, it
so.
will
It's
be accepted, accepted
JJ.
with
So
a revision.
it's kind of lagging before. Can you repeat it one more time? Sorry.
Can you hear me?
It's lagging. Yeah, it's lagging. Yep. We will waiting. We will wait for you. But anyway, friends,
Am I
jadi
lagging?
you're lagging. You're lagging. You're lagging. Yeah. Okay, so ini lagi ada yang bertanya ya.
Am I good
Gimana?
now?
Better. Can you hear my voice? Maybe a bit late ya. Nah, ya, it's not working. Jadi ada yang nanya, kira-kira gimana cara JJ manage kegagalannya waktu ditolak sama salah satu jurnal top gitu. Tadi karena kita merujuk ke cerita kalau dia pernah kirim terus kena tolak gitu ya, kena tolak dan ya tadi katanya secara singkat barusan kalau dia itu ya kegagalan itu part of proses gitu, jadi kind of interesting. Yep. Okay, it's lagging. France, so be patient. So menimbang kita ini dari negara dunia ketiga, so the internet is an issue here in Indonesia. But yeah, insightful banget ya diskusi hari ini, teman-teman. Kita udah bicara soal kenapa perlu nulis kenapa harus nulis jurnal, dan juga betapa pentingnya sebenarnya nulis jurnal, dan beberapa tips praktis kira-kira untuk menulis di jurnal itu bagaimana sih, ya kan? Dan bukan cuma itu, tadi juga ada soal cara kita untuk bisa cara kita untuk bisa berdampak terhadap akademi filsafat secara global, selain cara publik secara akademik, ya. Sekalipun itu sangat penting dan bahkan yang paling fundamental salah satunya. Kita bisa menulis di koran katanya, dan itu yang sebenarnya juga terjadi di banyak dilakukan oleh para filsuf ya, kalau kawan-kawan tahu, dan juga lewat conference ya, hal macam begini ini juga hal yang baik gitu kan. Terus juga project, tadi teman-teman kalau dengar JJ itu juga punya salah satu project judulnya filsafat dari agama-agama yang terapropriasi di Asia Tenggara. Buatku itu sangat menarik karena term apropriasi itu kan punya konotasi yang negatif, tapi enggak dan kali ini. Nah, JJ sudah kembali, kita dengar pendapat dia terakhir soal yang barusan. So, hi, JJ.
Sorry about that. My
No worries.
internet is
That's
lagging.
happening often time. We're living in the
Third world,
global.
yeah.
Yeah, third world. Yeah, basically we're in the third world. So often happening. So yeah, about your failure, JJ. Can you elaborate more?
Yeah, so where was I? The question about rejection. So rejection is part and parcel of the whole process of publishing. When you submit the paper, there are only four ways to go. First, you get accepted without revision. Second, accepted with some revision. Third, revise and resubmit. And fourth, of course, is reject. Okay. So how do I handle rejections? Well, I'm used to it by now. I've been rejected for my paper. I have three rejections just this week. So I'm used to rejection. It's part of it because again, you need to craft to harness your craft, and being rejected is one way of harnessing that. But don't take rejection as a bad thing. Okay, rejection might be, well, perhaps you need to reformulate your paper. You need to rethink about how to attack the problem or how to present the problem. That's a challenge. Of course, when I was younger, I think when I first tried out publishing somewhere, it really hurt. Okay, my first rejection really hurt. I cried for several months, and I think I almost quit doing philosophy. But it's when I when I got used to rejection. Well, it's one of the things that, well, it's part of it. It's part of the process. I heard that some of the top philosophers we have now have been rejected by journals as well. So don't take it too hard. It's just part of it. But thanks for the question. That's an interesting question. There's a kind of psychological thing going on as well there. But yeah, it's just part of the whole discipline. That's the whole process. So
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
worry about it.
yeah. First thing first, try to publish it. Am I right? First thing first, try to
Submit.
publish it. Yeah,
Write it
submit it.
down. Write it well. Do the whole thinking process. Submit it, and let's see from there.
Nice. Maybe sometimes you can we can talk about you can present a bit about your your advice for
Yeah.
how to write philosophy. Maybe sometimes JJ, if it's possible here.
Yeah, it's like life as well. You get rejected in a job, or you get rejected in school. Some of your papers are not that good in school or whatever. That's all right. It's part of life. Move on and just do it all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, JJ, for that answer. So yeah, we've been around 48 minutes today. I think it's more than enough. And again, thank you so much, JJ, for for your willingness for taking some time here to come to this small collective here in Indonesia to share your experience to try to impact globally and philosophy academy globally.
Thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Thanks for having me.
Ya, and I really hope teman-teman semoga bisa mendapatkan insights juga ya dari percakapan kali ini. And for the next week, we will have another discussions as well. For your information, JJ, we're going to have Kenneth Pierce, who wrote the what is it, the Is There God debate with Graham Opie. So yeah, so if you have your time, friends, audiences, let's come here. Let's have the discussions with Kenneth L. Pierce about Is There God. So yeah, again, thank you, JJ. I hope this is not the only first and last time of you here came to this collective.
I'll be back. Thanks, Samuel.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.